actually, the Most High tried to awake me several times. The first time was in like around 1993, and I was a young woman. I was probably like around 20, I don't know, my late 20s, and I told everyone that we were the children of Israel, and everyone laughed at me so hard, and I just became very shy and embarrassed, and I didn't say anything more about it till I got in my late 40s. And so anyway, so my husband and I have been awakened for, I guess, going on about 6 years. And we also have a publication called Zion Rising, which is a Torah-only publication. We have artists and poets and teachers. Hopefully we'll get our good brother in there one day. And so anyway, that's basically about it. And I'm so excited to do this on Torah Portions, because I did not start Torah Portions until I started with Absolute Knowledge. I met with Akika, and he went over Torah Portions with me. I then turned around and showed them to my husband, and they have changed our life. We're up early anyway because my husband rises early for work, but we get it in before the sunrise, the same way that our ancestors went out and they got the manna. And it really has changed my life. I guess next to being awakened and then finding out the truth of the New Testament, I would say the Torah Portions are probably the third greatest thing that's happened to me since in this awakening. And so I was really excited and honored to be here and just share this week what I got out of this week's Torah Portions.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So how do I share my screen, brother?
You just, I think what you do is it should be somewhere a button on there where you would want to present something.
Okay, on my screen, on the
Yeah. Do you remember how you did it on yours?
It's at the bottom of the Zoom. It's a share screen when you scroll down with the arrow up.
Okay, hold on. Oh, share. I see. Yep. Okay. All right. And then it lets me say like the application.
Yes.
Okay. And yep. Here we go. All right. All right. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead and
I can
push your slideshow button at the top so you can get it. And then
okay, all right.
Expand it. We can see it though.
Okay, great. It's loading. Okay, great.
There you go.
I wrote at the bottom of it, hold on one second, you guys, please be patient with me. I'm not that great at stuff like that, and I don't have my son here with me who, okay, all right, okay. All right, great, all right. Can you guys see it now?
Yeah, it's gone back to a small thing, but we can see it.
Okay, you can see it. Okay, I'm sorry that it's like that. Okay, so it's called The Way Back, and when I decided to do it is I decided to do my Torah portion. You know, there were so many things that happened this week. We had plagues, we had leprosy, other controversial matters among our people, such as international marriage, which was the reason why Aharon and Miriam dared to speak ill of their brother, who was the greatest prophet, Moshe. I could have definitely spoke about the mixed multitude who yielded to their intense craving for food of Egypt. for the food of Egypt, causing our ancestors to weep again for certain food, and how the Most High killed them all while they still had the meat in between their teeth, as it is written. But I decided not to talk about those things. The Most High brought something really different to me, and that was what was written in Numbers 9, verses 20 through 23, and where it says, whether by night or by day, whether by cloud, whenever the cloud lifted, they set out. Whether the cloud stayed over the tabernacle for 2 days or a month or a year, the Israelites would remain in camp and not set out. But when it lifted, they would set out. At the Almighty's command, they encamped, and at his command, they set out. And when I read that, it was just really, really just like so beautiful to me to just see how hands-on the Almighty was with our people. And the same way he actually wrote the 10 instructions out with his own finger after Moshe had crashed them. Here he just shows that he lovingly guided them, that he was with them. It was pure, it was unadulterated. And I also started thinking about how so much has changed since then because our ancestors broke the covenant. And with them breaking the covenant, literally everything changed. And that's written there in Jeremiah 31, and 32. Behold, the days are coming, says Yahuwah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt. My covenant which they broke, though I was a husband to them. And he was the most caring, loving husband that anyone could ask for, the most attentive father. And our ancestors broke that covenant. And now the way back is a completely different terrain. Now the Most High says, you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. Where he once hovered above us, now things have completely changed for us. And so, and also, once the Almighty was enamored with love, and I'm reading this from Ezekiel 16, and he gives the prophet Ezekiel really this like a beautiful breakdown of our history with him. And it's written in the 16th chapter of Ezekiel, Son of man, call Zion to know her abominations, and say, thus saith the Most High, your birth and nativity are from the land of Canaan. Your father was an Amorite, and your mother a Hittite. As for your nativity, on the day you were born, your navel cord was not cut, nor were you washed in water to cleanse you. You were not rubbed with salt, nor wrapped in swaddling clothes. No, I pitied you to do any of these things for you, but you were thrown out into an open field when you yourself loathed you on the day you were born. And when I passed by you and saw you struggling in your own blood, I said to you, live, and you lived. I made you thrive like a plant in the field, and you grew and matured and became beautiful. And when I passed by you again and looked upon you, indeed, your time was a time of love. So I spread my wing over you and covered your nakedness. Yes, I swore an oath to you and entered into covenant with you, and you became mine, says the Most High. And now, Yahweh, the Most High, no longer has that free and unconditional love where he once washed us. Now he says to us, wash you make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do well. Seek judgment. He goes on to say, relieve the oppressed, judge the fatherless, plead for the widow, the various other judgments and statutes that he had included in Deuteronomy when he had given this word to Moshe. So where he once washed us, now we have to wash ourselves again. Things have changed. He is no longer that power that hovers above us as a cloud, lovingly guiding us. And he says, how long will thou go about, backsliding daughter? For the Almighty has done something new on the earth. A woman shall compass a man. A lot of different people feel very different about this scripture. When I read it, immediately it spoke to my spirit, saying that now we have to court the Most High. We have to convince him of our worthiness, where once he just looked at us and saw us beautiful because of our transgressions. Now we have to convince him that we are worthy. And after all, he says in Jeremiah 17:4 that we have created a fire in his anger that will burn forever. And I think that's what happens with unrequited love, when you just really, really love something and it betrays you. Yes. So his love was unrequited. The Most High says in Isaiah 65, I was sought by a people who did not ask for me. I was found by those who did not seek me. I said, here I am to a nation that was not called by my name. I have stretched out my hands all day long to a rebellious people. Again, he was the one that came after us. He was the one that sought us. Just like he said, here I am. And as you see now on the way back, it's the other way around. The Most High has truly flipped the script for us. It says in Isaiah 65:10, Sharon shall be a field of flocks, and the valley of Achor a place for herds to lie down, for my people who have sought me. Again, we are seeking him in this day. Same thing in Isaiah 59:20. The Redeemer will come to Jerusalem.
She'll come back in, everyone. She's over on the East Coast in New Jersey. Hopefully to catch.
Is the Most High is about that again, he who calls the end from the beginning, put it in the law in Deuteronomy 1-3, when both the blessings and the curse come upon us, and we find ourselves in these lands which he has scattered us to. That he will return for us once we have come back to him, along with our children, with all our heart and with all our soul and with all our might. In the same way that he was once a cloud above us, and love was so pure and unadulterated, so was the Torah. I mean, again, he gave it to us straight out of his mouth. Our ancestors heard his voice. Can you imagine that? Now we've been handed Torah by the wicked. We got Torah back with another Savior, 12 more apostles, baptism, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And many of us are still trying to figure this one out. Revelations 22:16 which was in a book that many of us used to ascribe to, and I don't believe anyone here does. All praises to the Most High. But, yes, hallelujah. But for most of us, this really opened our eyes about the added testament and the added covenant that was attached to the Torah and the prophets. It really opened our eyes, but it also let us know that the Most High wasn't playing with us. Again, we once got Torah. It was pure. It was unadulterated. It was just completely from his finger and from his mouth, and given to his most trusted and beloved servant, which was Moshe. And now we had to receive it back from the wicked for our sins. And so, Most High is living. He's eternal. He's growing in his word. This is a great scripture that you had pointed out to me, brother. But it's true. He's learned there will be no more wicked people in the land again. But when grace is shown to the wicked, they do not learn righteousness. Even in the land of uprightness, they go on doing evil and do not regard his majesty. So, this is why there will be no wicked people in the land again. I could have included Zephaniah 13:9 about how we're going to be tried and tested. So many scriptures point to the way back. But Torah is the only cloud above us now. I love this picture because he has the book in his hand, and the book is like the power to rip off the chains and to find the Most High again. Yeah, this is what we have now. And we also have the preponderance of his prophecies that are being fulfilled. I truly, truly believe that the prophecies are being fulfilled so astonishingly, so accurately, that for me, I really can feel his presence. We have to remember that it was the prophecies of Deuteronomy that woke so many of us up. We're talking about the curses specifically. So we also know that the Most High does live in his prophecies as well.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So that's what I had to share with you guys.
Praise.
Hallelujah. Beautiful.
Hallelujah.
Yahweh.
Hallelujah. Praise to Yahweh.
Okay.
I'm trying to tell you, you know what? I got goosebumps all over my body.
Okay.
For our living Elohim. What I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, Azania, because that's what her name means, that Yah hears. Yah is expressing that, you know, the development of our people. I'm taking notes, okay? I do. A pad and paper, because this is what I'm feeling. Go ahead, whoever raised their hand, Yared or Pam.
Koti Azania, great recap. One thing that I caught on your first slide,
Yes,
you word command, and it made me think about how the Most High is the general.
yes,
And I remember, I want to say about a month or two ago, we talked about how we didn't know him as El Shaddai, but we knew him as Yahweh Wahe. But
yes.
we don't know him as that name, but he showed us that name, and we didn't even know it.
Wow.
Yes, hallelujah.
Thank
Yes.
you for bringing it out.
Great job. Praise Yah. What I took from it, I took the part about us seeking him. I love the fact that you brought out that we need to be after him now, and we need to chase. So he's showing us all the things that he's showing us because he wants us to be in pursuit of him. And I love that, you know, in terms of him wooing us and bringing us to himself and being in his presence, but we have to do our part. And I like the fact that you made us responsible.
Yes.
In Christianity, you and I had no responsibility.
Right.
Kote Rivkwa.
Hallelujah. Praise Yah. That was beautiful. I just wanted to say, I loved how you emphasized the Torah portion, because I felt the same way when David and when Akika and I found the Torah portion. It literally changed our lives. It made everything so clear once you go through the whole cycle.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you start adding the Psalms, and oh boy, you know. Well, praise Yah. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Okay.
Toda.
Toda, all praises.
Praises. Praise be to the living Elohim. Well, with that being said, we'd like to thank you, Akoti Toda Rabbah, for your contribution today. And again, next week on our next Shabbat, we're going to have our sister Akoti Kavika. She's going to do a presentation as well. And we'd also like to encourage anyone else for the following Shabbat that they can make, it doesn't have to be a slideshow. It could be something just talking, whatever you want to do, you could do that. This is your community. You can make your contributions to the King of the universe, because that's who we're doing this for. So hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Praise be to the living Elohim. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started on what I have. I don't know if it's I hope my dear brother, I took one of his slides. I think I did. I think I found Yared's slide. I think I finally found it. I was up like really late last night. And Yared, is this your slide?
Yes.
I found it. All right. Anyway, all praises to the living Elohim. So in line with what Azania was talking about, this is amazing. This in particular Torah portion I had named called the preparation of a nation. The preparation of a nation. Preparation, doing the foundational work and putting something together is I would think it's the most difficult part of any project. Preparation is part of it. It's like even in construction, I have a background in construction. If you don't prepare the foundation of anything that you do, like if you're painting, if you don't take all the old stuff off, then, you might have some issues when you try to put the new paint on. In flooring, if you don't get all the staples off the ground or all the old tack strip or the old pad, it could cause a disruption in the installation of something. It can cause a not so great outcome. So preparation in anything, even in our teaching, you have to prepare, and so this is a big deal. And so what we're finding in this Torah portion, along with what's been going on for the last several months of us being in here, is Yah's walking us through a cycle. We're actually walking through. I know that we read these things and we say, okay, well, we're not there. We don't know, why are we looking at the Torah portion? Why are we reading about all these names? And why are we, going through this so slowly sometimes? It seems like it's taking forever to get through it. That is all intentional. The Creator wants you and I to take the trip. That's what the Torah portion is, as Rivka said. This is a trip. This is a journey. And the reason why you're taking this journey is because Yahweh is using the journey of walking through the Torah in order to prepare us. Okay? To prepare us, because the ultimate goal is we're all going back to the wilderness. And I'll show you that. Okay? But along the way, in our Torah, we're going through nice and slow. We're seeing everything. We're seeing about our father Abraham and where his life and his relationships. We're seeing Yitzchak and what he went through. We're seeing the family and we're seeing the development. We're seeing all the different things that they're going through. All this is preparation. All of it, every last bit of it. Okay. So I want you to be encouraged about walking through the Torah. Don't be mad or upset because we're only staying in the book of Numbers for the next 60 days. I don't know if it's 60 days, but it's going to be a while. We're going to be here for a minute, okay? Because Yah wants us. We're in the mindset of the wilderness, and he's going to tell us why, okay? The first part of this is that in the preparation in this nation, what we would call would be the complaint. There was a complaint that was made on several occasions, right? And as you read your Torah portion, you would identify what this complaint was. As Sister Akoti Azania had mentioned, that they were complaining about, their life. They were complaining about their food. They were making a complaint. But there was also a complaint for Moshe. He was making a complaint. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a guy, I would call him a guy, but there was a man who was Moshe's brother-in-law, okay? And his name was Kovav, okay? And his name means to embrace, it means love. And Moshe had asked him and said, hey, you know, will you come with us? You know, because Yah has promised us great things. And this man said, no, I'm going back to go be with my family. He was his brother-in-law. He said, no, I'm going to go be back with my people. I'm about to do that. He said, well, you know, Yah's promised us great things, you know? So if you come with us, the stuff that he's promised us is going to be good for you too. But this man said no. And when you look at your Torah report, you're going to ask yourself, why did he leave if Yah had promised some good things? He left because he was smart. Because everything that's about to take place, everyone, everything that's about to take place from this point on, from this complaint, okay, moving forward is going to be disastrous. It's going to be disastrous for the people. And so this guy got out right in time, okay? He got out right in time. So in the wilderness, in these journeys that we're on, it's going to be found in Bamidbar. Bamidbar really talks about being in this place of preparation, and it shows some of the intimate things about the nation and what's really making them tick and what they're really thinking, right? There's going to be two places that we're going to go to, okay? There's two locations that we want to focus our attention to, okay, today. And so I decided to give you some Hebrew a little bit. You know, I want you to have a pen and paper. I want you to write some of this down. If you don't know how to write the Hebrew, just try to figure it out, just to have some fun. It'll be nice, something to do for you, okay? But this word called shanayim means two, because I'm going to take you to two places today, okay? Shanayim, two. That's what I'm going to take you. I'm going to take you to two places, shanayim. And the word for place is called makom. M-A-Q-O-M. What's fascinating about the Hebrew language, let me see if I can put this here. Again, I'm always having these issues with these electronic pens and stuff. Makom. If you were to look at this word here and you would know the Hebrew language, you would be like, okay, what letter here is M? And that's going to be this one right here. This is how easy it is to learn a language. Well, which one is Q? This is one right here. Okay. Which is the O? This one right here is used that way. And what's the final? The M. It's this one right here. See, that's all you're doing. So when you look at something, when you look at the Hebrew language, you're just taking the letters. And if you know the letters, you'd be able to instantly go, oh, that's makom. You already look at it. You'll be able to know it. And you'll learn that in my Hebrew class. I'll be able to show you how to transliterate these letters, because these are the letters that you're used to looking at. But once you find out what these letters are, you'll be like, oh, I know what that is. You see? So it's not hard. The Hebrew language is not hard at all. All it is just a written script that you're not used to. That's all. The M sound is still the same. This M for Hebrew, is the same right here. This right here that they use for a Q is the same sound for this one, qua. The O right here is still an O, okay? And the M, a final M right here is an M sound. It's still the same. So you already know the sounds. The only thing you don't know is you don't know what the letters are. And that's it, okay? These sounds that they have with the dots and stuff like that, the ah, these two dots, the three dots, the dashes, and the other one like this, and these other ones that looks like, you know, here, and then you got this right here, two dots, all this kind of stuff. Those are sounds that all you already know. You already know the vowels, which are A, E, I, O, U. You know how to say ah? You already know how that. So what am I saying? I'm saying the only part of the language that you really don't know is just the characters of the language. That's the only thing you don't know. Once you learn this, then you'll move on to the next phase and figure out what those dots are. And then after that, you figure out what the grammar is and how they construct it together. So what you're doing is you're learning how to build. And that's part of preparation. A lot of people don't want to learn a language. They don't want to learn. They don't see any need because they figure they're going to be saved. No, if you know the language, you'll be able to bring out the beauty of the culture, because the language is part of the culture. So if you understand the language, you'll understand the culture. If you understand the culture, you'll understand the people. And then if you understand the people, then you'll understand the way that you and I are supposed to be living, which we're going to find out here. Okay. So the word that for place is called makom. Makom. Like when you comb your hair, make it up. Makom. Give me makom. And be like, that's place. Simple. That's what it is. All right. So the two places that we're going is called Tavera. That's one of the first locations that we're going to go, as was in the Torah portion. And the second place is called Kivroth Hata Awa. Okay. Kivroth Hata Awa. And these are your African, these are your African sounds. Okay. These are not your European sounds. Okay. Because they're going to change some letters to make it sound European, but it really is a Semitic language, which is an Afro-Semitic Hebrew language. Okay. So Tavera, Kivroth, the Hata Awa. Okay. The Hata Awa. And we're going to tell you what those things mean. All right. But those are the two locations that we're going in the Makom. Makom. Okay. Tavera. Okay. Tavera. Tavera is a place of burning. Okay. And so that's the place we're going to go. And how did that happen? Well, according to Bamidbar or Bamidbar 11:1, it says the people began what? They began complaining. I want you to put the pieces together. The people began complaining about their hardships to Yahweh. All right. Now, this is interesting. They weren't saying this as, coming to him and saying, hey, we're going through this and it's that. No, what they did was they were complaining to themselves, and they were complaining in Yahweh's hearing. Okay. It says that in Yahweh's ears. Okay. But Yahweh doesn't have ears. Okay. Yahweh has created the ear. So therefore Yahweh knows, and he understands hearing, because he created the ear just for the hearing. The hearing is not the ear. The ear is just the flesh is used. That's how perfect he is, that he gives us these connections to our body. And then he puts within it the eardrum, and he also puts little hairs inside of our eardrum. So when frequencies and vibrations hit it, it sends different messages to the brain. That's how wonderful our creator is. So the mastermind behind creating the ear is the same one who understands all what it is to be able to hear and to understand. So Yah has designed this. So he's the one who understands this. So when Yahweh heard it, okay, when Yahweh heard it, his anger flared up so that the fire from Yahweh broke out against them and consumed the outskirts of the camp. Okay. What we're finding here is that Yahweh is definitely paying attention to everything that's being done and everything that's being said, as we've been learning over the last several weeks. There's nothing that you and I can do to get away from Yah. Every word that you and I speak is going to be recorded. It's all being recorded. Okay. Not on the internet. The sound waves in which you and I pronounce anything, this should really, I don't want to scare you, but it should put some fear into us. Okay. And it's going to show you the reason why you should not say things that you have no business saying. And sometimes when we do our complaining, we say things and we're unaware really of like who's really listening. Okay. So often we complain and we're just talking to talk. Yah's saying that, listen, I'm even hearing what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying, and I know where it's coming from. And sometimes when we say the things that we're saying and complaining, because you can't complain in two different ways, and we'll show that to you today. They're complaining with something to cause Yahweh to be angry because of how they were complaining and what they were complaining about. Okay. So he wants us to be careful And this is the reason why he's brought us here, so we can learn and understand that Yahweh does hear. He does hear, and he sees as well. There's a reason why he broke out on the outskirts of the camp, which I'm going to bring you to here in just a moment. You might ask yourself, well, why just consume the outskirts? Why would he just burn it? Why he didn't burn the inside and the certain areas? Why did he burn the outskirts of the camp? Was it because the people were mostly complaining on the outside of the camp, or was it just, who was it? Did I take a couple from this tribe or from this tribe, or what was it? Well, remember, as we learned last week or earlier this week, that the circle of the camp was an enclosement, right? So what Yahweh's done is he says, I'm gonna burn the outskirts. The reason why he burnt the outskirts is simply because he wants to put an end, because those were the furthest extremity of the camp. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put an end, just like to what's going on. This is the reason why Yah is done, and I'm going to explain that through the language, okay? The first word we're going to look at right here is called complain. To complain, okay? English doesn't break it down like the Hebrew, okay? It's called anan. Anan. That means to complain. I want you to pay careful attention to the sound, anan, because you're going to hear that again. You're going to hear this word again, but it's going to be spelled differently, okay? This one right here has a aleph, right? The next one, that's an aleph. The next one that we're going to talk about is going to have an ayin in front of the word, and it's still the same identical pronunciation, anan, but they mean two different things, okay? Just like I told you at one point in the Hebrew language, what you're going to do is you're going to hear certain words that sound just like each other, but they have different meanings. And so you would ask yourself, well, how do you know the difference between the two words? How would you know anan for complain and anan for some other word? How would you know the difference? The reason why you would know the difference, or how you would know the difference, is the context of the sentence. There's a word called lo. What does lo mean in Hebrew? Somebody tell me.
No.
No. Okay. And there's also another lo. It's still lo, but it's written differently. And it's still with a lamed. Here it is. This is lo for no. Okay. Right with my finger. And here's another lo. A lamed with a wa. Okay. So this lo over here means no. Okay. Absolutely no. This one over here means, this is a preposition meaning to, because they use that as a preposition, to or for. Sorry for taking so long with my finger. My pen didn't want to work for now. That means to or for, and this one right here is a suffix that means him. H-I-M. Okay. So one is to or for him, and the other one is just no. But they both sound exactly the same. They both have the lamed as their first letter. So in the Hebrew language, that's what it's going to be sometimes. You're going to hear that. So I wanted to make you aware of that. Just a little side note. But anan means to complain. And let's continue. So what's the Hebraic understanding in this cultural understanding of complaining? Okay. The action of this root means to produce. Okay. To produce what? Produce. Say, to produce produce. Produce is that which comes out of the ground, right? So when a land failed to produce produce, one would begin to complain. And that's pretty much what these people were doing. They were complaining because, so you got to understand, these are cultural people. So everything that's coming out of their mouth and how they're responding has to do with the culture in which they lived in, right? They weren't complaining because of the things that you and I complain about, which is scary, okay? They were complaining because they felt as if they were being diminished, and they felt as if they were very dissatisfied because what they have come from and where they are right now are two different things, okay? They're believing and they're accusing Yahweh of failing them. They're calling him a failure. That's what they're saying. They have used the pretext, okay, to say how they really feel. So instead of them coming out and asking questions, what they decided to do was they started to make statements. See, and that's the, but see, behind every question, behind statements, when people say things, that's really saying that they want to say something, they want to ask something, but this is the only way they know how to do it. They're afraid of asking questions. So instead of asking a question, they make statements. The greatest example that you have, and that's in this, listen to me, that's evil. Okay. A lot of times you think they call the better sheath in Genesis, they said that the serpent had asked the woman, did Elohim say? That's what they say, right? Isn't that what they say? That he asked her a question, correct?
Yes.
That's not true.
No, that was really a statement.
Thank you, Kent. He never asked her a question. He never asked her, did Yahweh say? He was never an interrogator. He never interrogated her. All he did was he asked a question in order to get her to think something. That's what's so deceitful and so subtle. And so what these people are doing is that they're thinking that Yah doesn't read between the lines, and they think that he doesn't hear what they're really saying. Okay. On the surface, it looked like they were just complaining because they had a legitimate complaint. They did not have a legitimate complaint, and I'll prove it. They believed that Yahweh was failing them, and this is the reason why they were complaining. And often we have to be careful of doing the same thing. We think that Yahweh will fail us because we're not getting what we want. What we need to do is we need to start asking questions. Okay. Often we make statements, but underneath that statement is a question that should be asked. But because we want to be accusative, we'll use a statement rather than being open and not being deceptive. Not asking questions is a way of being deceitful. That's being deceitful. Okay. So you know how he says people talk and you got to read between the lines, or people, there's a message that's hidden. So Yah's letting us know that there's something about when people talk that I'm hearing you, but I'm hearing beyond what you think I'm hearing. I know what the heart is. I know underneath that, you're accusing me of something. Okay. The next word we want to talk about is what it says Yahweh had heard. The word that Yahweh had heard here is ozin, which goes to our Hebrew word. Oh man, this thing right here is something else. It's ozin. And ozin has to do with the ear. Okay. And ozin is from our word azan, which is part of our sister's her first name, Azanya. The same word for azan is the same word where she gets her root ozin. And it means ear. It means the one who hears. Okay. Well, why are you hearing? Why did Yah give us two ears? This is important. Why is he giving us ears? And this is talking about preparation. Yah's trying to get us to understand that when I gave you these ozins, or these ozanim, when I gave these to you, it's because I gave you an attribute that makes me hear you and I can be able to connect with you. And I'm going to give you information that you're supposed to do something with. Every time Yah says something with his words, you and I are supposed to be able to respond to it with what he gave us, which is part of who we are, a part of our being. So you don't have your eyes just to look at television. You don't have your ears just to listen to gossip or listen to music. They're there for a whole nother purpose. Okay. The purpose of having your ears is to be able to balance things. Okay. The Hebraic cultural understanding of this, of ears, is a balance. Okay. That's why there are two of them, because they're like scales. Okay. That's used for weighing. So every time someone speaks, Yahweh takes their words and he puts it on a scale. Oh, you better hear me. He puts our words on a scale to find out whether or not they're righteous, or if they're just, or if the scales, one would go up and one would go down. So what's a just scale? What's a just scale? Where does it have to be?
Even.
It has to be even. So if you gave me a certain amount of wheat, I would give you a certain amount of money to match that, to weigh it out. So when Yah is saying is that these people's words were evil. They weren't righteous. They weren't just. It wasn't balanced. Okay. So when we speak and we talk and we make our complaints, we need to be absolutely 100% sure, okay, that we're balanced in what we're saying. If you have a legitimate complaint, Yah will put it on a scale and find out if you're right or if it's wrong. And we found that in our Torah portion. So we got one group who's saying something and they're complaining, and then we got someone else who had complained. Who was the other person that complained? Who's the individual that complained? You did your Torah portion?
Do you mean besides Aharon and Miriam and Moshe complained?
Yeah, besides them, who was it? Okay, I'll just tell it to you. Moshe complained. He complained about the people. He complained about them being a burden. But he didn't just come out and say it. He asked questions. And Yah took what he said and put it on a scale and said, I'm gonna bring some balance here. I tell you what, go get me how many elders?
70.
Go get me 70 elders and bring them to the tent of meeting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the spirit that I gave you and I'm going to take a residue of that and I'm going to put it on them. You see? Because I'm going to balance it out now. Because you're saying that this burden is too much for you. And I know, he said, I know that these people disrespect you. They will kill me. I see how they treat you. That was a legitimate complaint. He said, did I raise these people? Are these my children? Did I carry them in the wilderness? Am I their father? Answer to that was no. So he had legitimate concerns and he brought it to Yahweh with questions. You understand? But again, the reason why that Yah had put this fire on the end of the camp, on the outskirts, the word there is called quatse, okay? Quatse. Quatse is the end. Why? Because Yahweh was saying, I am needing to put it into something by cutting it off. He figured, well, if I burn up the outside of the camp, this will stop and cease this in particular complaining. Okay? I want to put it into it, therefore I'll cut it off. So at the extremity of something, at the end of something, if that's something if you want to cut something off so it won't continue, you have to do a quatse. You don't cut in the middle of it. You cut at the end of it. You see, if you start getting gangrene in your finger, you don't cut your whole hand off. You cut off the end of it where it's at to stop it. So this is the reason why Yah decided to burn up the outside of the camp. And so again, at these two places, which is Teravah and Massa, and Kivroth Hatava, you made Yahweh angry. This is Moshe again, letting them know in the book of Devarim, mentioning this place. Why is he mentioning this place? Why is Moshe telling the other second generation, okay, after their ancestors died, why is he telling them this in Deuteronomy chapter number 9? Because right now we're in Numbers. So he mentions this place again. Tavera. Why does he mention Tavera again? I'm going to tell you the reason why. Because in this in particular chapter, okay, it's not in our Torah portion, but it's in the Torah. He mentions this because he's saying, you guys have always been this way. You did it at Massa, you did it at Kivroth, at Hatavah. You made Yahweh angry. When Yahweh sent you off to Kadesh Barnea, you hear the journeys, you hear the travelings, go up and take possession of the land I've given you. You rebelled against the order of Yahweh, your Elohim. You neither trusted him nor you heeded what he said. So we're seeing this whole idea of this rebellion. We're seeing this idea that they don't trust Yah. They do not trust him. We see that they're saying stuff because deep down inside, they are rebels. This is what people like to do when they're doing complaining. When you're a rebel, you complain against what Yahweh said. When you're a rebel, you hide things against the Holy One and you just make statements. You don't ask any questions. This is how you know a rebel. A rebel will stay on the will stay out of a learning environment so they can just do a whole bunch of talking. instead of coming to find out and ask some questions. And so Moshe says, you've been rebelling against Yahweh from the first day I knew you. First day, the whole time. And so I fell down before Yahweh for 40 days and 40 nights, and I lay there because Yahweh said that he would destroy you. That's in chapter number 9 of Deuteronomy, which is a very deep chapter talking about how angry Yahweh is. I mean, it's the whole chapter is talking about Yahweh's anger. The whole chapter is talking about he's going to wipe us out. The whole chapter. Why? Because it all has to do with how we feel about our Creator. Yah's letting us know that when you complain, you understand that you don't trust me. Not if you don't have a legitimate complaint. You rebel against Yahweh when you don't ask any questions. You should ask questions rather than make statements. Statements are dangerous. Very dangerous. But let's talk about the preparation of a nation. Let's talk about that influence that Akoti Azani was alluding to about the children of Israel. What was the things that were influencing them? What really got them, for them to stop trusting in him? What was it? Why were they rebelling against him? Again, we're going back to our Makom. So the next one we're going to is the Kivroth, okay? So the Tavera was dealing with the burning, right? The Yah has said that he's going to do to them, and he did. And then we got Kivroth, the Kata Awa, all right? So this one right here means the graves, okay? This is about graves. It's in the Makom. The Kivroth, the Hata Awa is the graves. The reason why these people went into graves is simply because they had asked Yah for food. They were complaining because they didn't have any meat. And what he did was he said, you know what? And this is not the first time, okay? Kivroth Hata Awa is not the first time the Yah had fed them with quails. There's two stories. The first one is in Exodus 16. When they first came out, before it even had manna, Yahweh told them that tomorrow I'll bring you manna, but this evening I'm going to bring some quails. And the quails fell right down in the midst of the camp. Okay. That's that one story. The second story is where Yah had now brought this to this place called Kivroth Hata Awa. Okay. So this place is named this. Okay. Because this is where the event happened. This time they complained because they didn't have any food, because they were running around with a mixed crowd, the multitude that was around them. And they grew greedy for an easier life, right? Because the mixed crowd around them started saying, hey, this is a little difficult. So as we saw, Moses' brother-in-law got wise and was like, these people are a trip. I'm out of here. He left. I want to go be with my family. He didn't want to go to the land. He wanted to go right back to his family. He didn't want to have nothing to do with them. But there was another group of people that were inside the mixed crowd, okay, who were not Israelites. They wanted a easier life. They had cravings for an easier life. Why? Because they didn't understand that Yahweh was preparing his people. It says, Yah has told us on plenty of occasions that he's done certain things to Israel in order to build them. This is why we're going through what we're going through, So often we want other people to join with us. And as I said, I'm not here to do a ministry. I'm not here to go and evangelize anybody. I'm not here to go and talk to the Goyim, the nations. I'm not here for that. I'm only here for the children of Israel. I'm only here for my people. You understand? And those who want to join themselves to Israel can, but they need to understand something. Listen carefully. They need to understand that the life for Israel is not going to be easy. You want to be with Israel, you got to understand you're going to have some challenges because Yah is developing us as a nation. It's not going to be you leave one way and still remain the same way. Yah is saying, if you're on this journey with me, there is a change that's going to have to be forced upon you, that you're going to have to be developed. There's no way that you're going to come out of slavery and you're going to come out of idol worship and you're going to come out of having sex with your sister and all this kind of stuff that these people were accustomed to doing, burning up your children. Okay. Israel, we like to think that Israel was this Wonderful, great people. They were not wonderful. They were not great. They were rebels. And everything that they learned, remember, Yahweh told us in our Torah portion, when I bring you out of this place, I don't want you to do the customs of the people that you left. And they were doing those customs. And when you get into this land, you're not going to do those things that those people are doing. You have to be set apart, and you have to be, Isha told me, don't use that word holy. Don't use that word, because it's a false sense of thinking, it's too spiritual. Once you call it what it is, it's kadosh. Once you be set apart, everything about our lives have to be set apart. These people did not want the life. They wanted an easier life. They didn't want the life that Yahweh was preparing for his people. Okay. So instead of us bending towards Yahweh, we bent towards somebody else. And that's what's happening to our people today. Okay. Our people are listening to other people because they want the easier life. They don't want the challenges. They don't want the so-called restrictions of the diet. They don't want the discipline that's required in order for you to raise your family. They don't want that. They don't want the commitment where a husband and wife literally have to talk to each other. They have to communicate. You have to work out issues. That's what it is. They don't want anybody telling them who they can and cannot marry. They don't want that. That's not an easy life. Okay. So the people of Israel, for their part, after they got burned up, okay, on the outskirts, what did they do? They renewed their weeping, like a whole bunch of babies crying. If only we had meat to eat. See, so what they're doing is they're searching for a pretext in order to tell how they feel without just asking any questions. They weren't concerned on the development of the nation. They didn't care that they were the people that Yahweh chose to give glory unto his name. They didn't want the job. They didn't want it, but they wanted all the benefits that goes along with it. They wanted to be what they wanted to be. See, the thing is, we want Yah to do something for us, as Azania said, but we're the ones who are supposed to take responsibility and seek it out. They didn't want to do this. They wanted Yahweh to hand them everything. Oh, thank you. We got the land that you promised our ancestors. Great. Oh, we get to go in and take over this land. Great. Okay, let's just, hand it over to us. But they don't want any responsibility for it. So they're using only if we had meat to eat. No, it wasn't about the food, folks. That was an excuse. They start talking about they remember the fish that they eat in Egypt. They said it cost us nothing, which means that is a lie. It cost them everything. It cost them their freedom. You understand? The cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, and the onions, and the garlic. I asked y'all, well, why is it? Yes, Azania.
Akika, I just wanted to say, it reminds me of our people in this day, even the Torah people who basically get together and they have Torah church going on about how blessed they are and how good the Most High is to them, while so many of us are suffering and our communities are fastly slipping into the abyss. And it's just like they think it's better here. Mm-hmm. As much as they complain, they still think it's better here than to be with the Most High. I don't see our people really wanting to return to the land.
Oh, and if it's, thank you for that. If it's, you're absolutely 100% correct. If it was left up to them, if going back to the land was left up to them, we would never go back. We would never go back. They can't even understand this. And then maybe someone can help me. And I'll get back to my point about why they asked for the fish and why they said these things. Why is it that we've been in this country for over 400 plus years, and we have all these lawyers and we have all these leaders, and not one of them has ever challenged the Constitution of the United States to make an African-American a whole person? Why is it still that he's still 3/5 of a person, of human being, he and she? Why are we still considered chattel? Huh? Why isn't that not on the list? Why isn't that not the priority? Why has nobody ever said that? You see?
And they're aware of it too, because Huckabee said it on the news.
Yeah. You understand?
Dred Scott. Okay.
So yeah, we want civil rights, and we want make sure that nobody, kills us. We want some reform. I think the first order of business would be to make us a whole human being. And I'm pretty sure everybody here would agree with that. You see, because ain't nobody else in the Constitution of the United States of America 3/5 of a person except for a black man and a black woman, which is a black child, whether male or female. You understand?
Exactly.
So that's the reality. Okay. So this is why I'm so passionate about talking about what I'm talking about. Back to the Torah. These people said it cost them nothing. And that's what you call being foolish. And y'all heard this. Okay. And which there was an absolute lie. It cost them everything. It cost them their freedom. I asked y'all, why is the fish and the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic? Because they wanted to be associated back with the land. But also I said, well, why fish? Because it had to do with what you would say abundance. It would have to do with abundance. They believed that they were getting abundance. Remember, I told you that they were dissatisfied, and we know this to be true because they said, but now we're withering away. We have nothing but this manna. That's all. They had no regard for what Yahweh had done for them. And what's disgusting about this, okay, is that they didn't understand, and they didn't want to understand. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. We got to stop making excuses. There is no excuse. It's not about, well, I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know. The reason why you don't know is because you don't ask any questions. That's the reason why you don't know. It's because you don't have enough wisdom to make inquiry and to ask, well, what about this? I think Yahweh would have had a better response to us if our leaders would have came and said, what is it that we should do for Yahweh? Or how should we respond? Or what should we expect from our creator? They didn't want that. They were challenging him. You see? But we know in Deuteronomy 8 and 2, it says this. It says you are to remember. See, they remembered the land of Egypt. Moshe is commanding the children of Israel to remember them everything of the way in which Yahweh led you these 40 years in the desert, humbling you and testing you, humbling you and testing you, humbling you and testing you in order to know what was in your heart, whether you would obey his commandment or not, his mitzvot. The same reason why he gave them manna in the first place, to find out if they would do the Torah, if they would keep the commandments. Every single day they were required to go out and pick the manna up because Yahweh wanted to know if they would be obedient to go do what he said every single day. And then on the 6th day, you're supposed to get a double portion so you don't work on the Shabbat. He did it to humble them. He did it to allow them to become hungry. Yah has a purpose and a plan because he's preparing a nation. This is not a magic pill. This means there's work that needs to be done on every last one of us. He will allow you and I to go hungry. And if that's the case, we need to ask questions instead of just making statements with underneath the surface, you have some other agenda. You have some other mindset. He said he gave us bread that our ancestors didn't know, and we didn't know what it was. To make us understand that a person does not live on food alone, but on everything that comes from the mouth of Yahweh, which in Hebrew is called the peh. The peh, from Yahweh's mouth, meaning what? Every command. 40 years? 40 years. And these people turn around and they say what they said, we have nothing to look at but this manna. By the way, in the Hebrew language, guess what it tells you? It tells you that this is what Yahweh do. I didn't know this until I read the Hebrew. Okay. This is my 8th time going through the Torah cycle. And on this cycle, guess what I found? I found that Yah says that he put the dew at night. He put the dew on the ground first, and then he let the manna fall on top of the dew. You hear what I just told you? We weren't eating food off the ground. We were not eating food off the dirt. Yah prepared a table for us, and he put dew on it to protect the manna from hitting the ground.
Hallelujah.
Read it in your Torah portion. Yah would put a frost on the ground so the manna would never even touch the dirt.
That's why you had to get it before it melted.
Do you understand? Yes, Rivqua. Yah prepared a space for it to keep it so it wouldn't hit the ground. And you got these people saying, all we got is this manna. So now it's changed in its turn. Now the vernacular is, all we got is this Torah. That's why you do Torah portions every single day. Because Yah's laying it out for us. He's giving it to us on a daily basis. Except for the Shabbat. Because Yah doesn't even do work on the Shabbat himself. I'll lay it down on 6 days. I'll give you a double portion. Don't let the manna melt. Get to your manna first thing in the morning. Get to eating it and preparing it and digesting it and being satisfied and being happy that Yahweh has provided food for us even in our exile. Tehillim, which is Psalms, tells us something about this manna. It tells us that these people, they sin yet still even against Yahweh more. They're rebelling in the wilderness against the Most High. In their hearts, check this out. They tested him. Do you see the conflict? Do you see how we're being influenced? Huh? We're being influenced by the people around us. We're being influenced by our appetites. We're being influenced. They tested him. He's testing them to try to get them to change their lives and their dependency and their trust on him. They're testing him and questioning his authority. They're demanding food. That's what they demanded, so he can satisfy their cravings. They didn't want what he had given them. They wanted more. They wanted this meat, these cravings. I want you to focus your attention on this word cravings. Okay. Cravings. Okay. Because remember, we're in Kivroth Hata'awa. Okay. And it's the graves of the greedy. You understand me? So the cravings, yes, they spoke against Elohim. Listen what these people said against the king of the universe. Can Elohim spread a table in the desert? You're talking about some people who just got out of slavery who was just crying because of their oppression, and he saved them and opened up the Red Sea and killed every last one of their enemies, and they got out and they danced and sang, and not even 40 days later, they made a golden calf, and then after that, they still talking crazy to the Elohim of the universe. These people said true. He struck the rock. Yeah. He gave us water. Yeah. Until the valleys overflowed. But what about bread? These selfish, rebellious, hard-headed, stiff-necked people. Can he give that? What can he do? Can he give that? Can he provide meat for his people so they can understand or get their cravings that they have? They're craving it because they're craving what they used to have. They're craving the lifestyle that they used to have. All their lust was getting fed, even in their misery. Woo! People like to stay in misery. They like to stay in a place that's very familiar for them. They don't want any real change. They like it the way that it's always been. We don't want to change. We want him to change. We want him to change. He's going to have to change for us, and we don't want to change for him. We're going to control him because he's our God. They're used to controlling their God by making it into whatever they wanted to make in an image that they can control, that they can put something in their mind and imagination. something that's not living. Do you know how sick that is? Is that you can look at something that's been made with a human hand and give your trust to it? That's called being self-deceived. That's called being wicked and evil. We're serving a living Elohim that gave us bread that, guess what? He heard them. He heard them. He heard them. He shema. He heard what they said. And he was angry, and his fire blazed up against Yaakov, and his anger mounted against Israel because they had no faith in Elohim, no trust in his power to save. He commanded the skies above and opened the doors of heaven. He rained down manna on them as food and gave them grain from Shamayim. There's grain in the heavens that Yah gave to us that he didn't give to anybody else. Mortals ate bread. Human beings ate bread that the Malachim eat. That's what they eat. He gave us what they eat. He's never done this for anybody else. He gave it to Israel. He provided them to the full. He satisfied. He didn't give a certain amount of ration. He told them, get as much as you need and require for your family to fill your appetite. Yah's not going to give you, he's not going to diminish us. This is the reason why we're on this journey. This is the reason why we're walking through the Torah portion. So you can understand that Yah is not trying to diminish us. You're not diminishing nobody by disciplining them. You're not diminishing them by putting in regulations and boundaries. You're not diminishing them by saying these are the rules on how you're supposed to behave and live. There has to be order. There has to be structure. And where did he stir up this wind? He started from the east, as he always does. And he brought up the south wind by its power, and he rained down meat like dust, and the birds flying thick as the sand of the seashore. He brought these birds, okay, to this place, and he said it was about a day's journey around the camp. This time, instead of him letting it fall in the middle of the camp, he didn't do that. This time, he brought the birds on the outsides of the camp, where there was structure and there's order, because prior to this, it just fell in the midst of them. Yah has already designed a Mishkan. He said, look, I don't want certain things around me. So you guys go out, and now you guys are complaining about meat. So guess what? You ain't going to eat it for one day like you did the first time. You're not going to eat it for 2 days. You're not going to eat it for 5 days. You're not going to eat it for 10 days. You're not going to eat it for 20. You're going to eat it for 30 days. You're going to eat it for 30 days. That's what I'm giving you. And it's going to come out of your nostrils. Why your nostrils? Because you made me angry. I'm going to make you loathed and hated. Since you love where you used to be, I'm going to put it right back in your face all day long. That's all you're going to eat. That's our Elohim. You understand? He's that type of father. He's that type of king. Y'all's not playing games with us. Ta'awah. Ta'awah, which is part of their word, kilroth. Ta'awah, okay? Which means craving, greed, lust, and desire. This is what these people were doing. They had a craving, a greed, a lust, and a desire. This word, ta'awah, and you can look it up, is the same word that's associated with Kuah, Eve, in the garden. This is what she had when she saw this. She had a craving and a lust and a desire for the food that she saw on that tree of knowledge of good and evil. This is the same word that's used for when a man looks at somebody else's wife. This is the same word that talks about not to covet. The same word. Okay. I told you before, I'm telling you, out of this thing right here, I used to tell women, hey, and it was innocent. I thought it was innocent. They would look nice and say, hey, you look very nice today. And Ishal used to be like, give me that look like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just, I'm a skincare therapist. I deal with makeup and women and all this kind of stuff all the time. I'm not tripping. No, not according to the Torah. The Torah says that a man can't even look at another woman and even give any sense of nothing towards her. You can't even tell her how pretty she is. You can't tell her, hey, that's nice what you got. You can't say nothing about her or anything that belongs to your neighbor. This is Yahweh's command. You understand? So brothers, listen to me carefully. Don't you open your mouth to tell a woman how nice she looks. Go ahead. Somebody got their hand up?
What if it's like an elder? You're just like, hey, Miss Jones, you look good today. How you doing? You're just like, what?
Go ahead, speak.
I said, what if it's just like one of your elders?
Are your
You know, like,
elders?
hey, yeah.
That's different. As you know what your elder, your woman. No, she's in your family. That's different. I don't care if she's an elder. Yah says if she's married to another, you do not. There's no reason. There's no reason. And there's no reason for us to do it, but there's a reason behind Yah saying that you can't do this. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because when Yah says this, he's saying, like, for example, say that some woman, no matter how old she is, she's still a woman. No matter how old she is, she's still a woman. Now, how old you are, you're still a man. There's those lines right there. Okay, they're not blurred. They're that's what it is. Say this woman is not getting the attention she needs to get from her husband, and you come up and you say something to her, and you're in it, and you say, well, I'm innocently just saying, hey, you look nice, or such and such and such and such. Well, guess what? You just put something in her husband's not giving to her. That might cause problems in the household. That's the truth. That's the problem. You know, somebody's making somebody else feel better about themselves when their own husband's not, and you come in and you say some stuff to them, and then all of a sudden it change, their mind is different and they feel different about themselves instead of them working out what they have to work out with their mate. This is the reason why Yah doesn't want any man saying anything to anyone. It's like a woman coming up to me telling me how special I am, and my wife has been mistreating me the whole time. Not that she has. You understand? And then this woman tells me, and she's an older woman, hey, you know what? I think you're just such a wonderful person, and you really and I get this confidence. And I no longer need to listen to her because I got some outside voices. Yah's concerned about people not being divided in their loyalty. Okay. And it's a way of protection. Yah's protecting the community from this type of thing. So I say this again, and I primarily say it to men because we got this bad. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it makes sense now. You know, just for like when you put on a bigger scale for Israel, like, man, I don't want you to listen to no other God, to no other nation.
Yeah.
You know, no other entertainer. So no,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what Yah is saying, because it's like we're listening to someone else who made us feel better about ourselves. It's like if I'm telling my child something or my wife something, and I don't like something about what she's doing, and then someone else come to hell and tell her something different they got in her ear. Now they just diminish what I said. Now we don't like to hear what Yah is telling us as a people. So this is the reason why people go to other gods. It's because they don't like Yah. They said his laws are done away with. I don't want to hear that anymore. I can saved by grace. I don't have to worry about being judged. If Yah told us something about ourselves, that's what it is. You understand? So no one else can have their ear. Nobody should have no part of our ear except for Yah. And if he's telling us that we're stiff-necked people, we're hard-hearted, then that's what it is. Because he's looking for a change. But when somebody else comes and tell you, well, guess what? No matter what happened, I forgive you and I love you. Come back to God. And guess what you say? Okay. And then you run over because you don't like what your other husband said. So now your boyfriend just got in your ear. You understand me? So Yah is telling us you better stop listening to other people. I don't want nobody talking to my woman. Nobody. That's what it is. Where does this come from? It comes from the idea of a side, okay? A sire, okay? The aleph represents the strength of an ox. This is where this word comes from, okay? It's called okay? Like okay? And the hay is one looking at a great sight and sighing. So when you combine these, it's a strong sigh, like, That whole English word is right here in Hebrew, okay? This can be a sigh when searching as an ox snorts or we're desiring food, but also too it is when an ox is desiring something, it gives that snort, that it's looking, it's searching, it's desiring something. And Yah's telling us from an agricultural standpoint to understand, remember he gave us animals and stuff to understand how we supposed to work, okay? So the that you and I have, we have a snort, we have a or we got that. You see, that's that desire. That's that craving. And Yah's saying that I don't want you to have that. You can't have that. Okay. So this is what Israel was doing. They had a desire. They was, and the first that they gave was the back to Egypt. The one who oppressed her, the one who raped her, the one who taught her how to be filthy, the one who did all those things to her. And he's saying, I delivered you. And now you're looking back. You're looking back as if I've done something harmful to you. You're saying I failed you, but the people that you were with, they didn't fail you, but I have. That's a husband getting married to a wife. And the first thing she mentioned to you is the boyfriend that she used to have and what he used to do. The dates they used to go on and the food they went to. And I remember when such and such, and I remember, what would you do to your woman? You understand? What would you do to your husband? He'd be telling you, I remember I was with such and such and she used to cook this way. I remember my first wife. I'm gonna get somebody hurt. Azania, go ahead.
I just wanted to say we could spend like a whole month studying this week's Torah portion.
Yeah.
And we really could. Yes.
Yes, it's deep. It's heavy. So this idea is Israel wanted to return. Okay. And shuv, this is the Hebrew word for it. It's called shuv. Okay. To return. And the understanding behind this is that the letters mean something. Okay. So the letter shin is a picture of the two front teeth, and it means to press, down. And the next letter to that word shuv is a bet. Okay. So right here is the SH. That's the shin. Right here. And then the bet is right here, which we got a V sound, right? But it's a B, but it's a V sound because it's the last letter in that word. But shuv, and so we're going to be talking about this letter right here, and we're going to be talking about this letter right here. Okay. Those two letters make up the root. And so where does this root come from? What is it? Well, the root has to do with the idea of a place, returning to, right? A place of turning back to, right? Or away from someone or something. And who does this? A captive. When Yah tells us to repent, he's telling us to return. It's because at one point you and I became a captive. The reason why these people wanted to go back, and they talked about these things, which the fish, the onions, the garlic, and all these things, is they enjoy their slavery. And that's the problem with our people today. As you mentioned, Akoti, they enjoy their slavery. They enjoy being a captive. They would rather turn back to Egypt and be a captive rather than to do what Yahweh says. Because they believe the people around them convinced them that there was an easier life back where they were. And so Israel renewed, and they wanted to return back to where they came from. You see, so a captive is one who's turned away from a place of dwelling, right? So you and I are in captivity, and what Yah is telling us to do is to turn what? Back to him. So either you can turn back to where your captivity is and you can stay there, or you can decide to have a mindset to shuv. And shuv is the word that's used for repent. You can repent and turn back to Yah. Well, what's the first thing that need to change? Because right now we're stuck physically in our captivity. Well, basically what Yah is asking us to do is to use our minds to turn back to him, to shuv back to Yahweh. If you shuv back to Yahweh right now with your mindset, if you turn back to Yahweh with your mindset, okay, and you go back to him, it starts with the Eastern mindset. It goes back to the East because that's where we're from. We're not from the West. We're from the East. The East is a mindset of, family, agriculture, leadership, community, these types of things. A Western mindset is, homosexuality, transgender, promiscuity, disobedience, rebellion, hatred, violence, rape, murder, theft, and injustice. So we got to turn mentally, okay? And so that's what Yah is asking us to do. And so in Deuteronomy chapter number 30, which piggybacks on what our Koti mentioned in her teaching today, is that Yah is asking us to do something, okay? I mentioned this earlier this week where I told you I really strongly believe that we've been here before, okay? Or we were in the wilderness. And the reason why I know this for certain, okay, for sure, is the fact that it says when the time arrives that all these things have come upon you, Okay. This you, if you look in the Hebrew language, this you right here represents a plurality, you guys, community. Okay. Both the blessings and the curse, which I presented to you, plurality, all of you guys, and you, plural, are there among the nations to which your Elohim has driven you, Etkim, you guys. Okay. And at last, you start thinking about what's happened to you. Okay. This you right here is plurality. Start thinking about what's happening to you. Okay. It switches from plurality to singularity now. It goes from plural to single. That you will return. Okay. So he switches it from you as a community, like a group of people, to an individual now. Because Yah is not, and listen, Moshe is letting us know, because he switches it from all of you guys being sent out of here, all of you guys being sent to the nations, all of you are going to start thinking about, because people are thinking about what's happened to them. Like, why is this happening? Everyone does, right? But the you in verse number 2 is a singular, meaning that that's a personal responsibility. Each of us individually have to return and have to shove back to Yahweh ourselves. The whole nation is not going to turn back to Yahweh. They're not. They're not going to turn back to him. It's the individual that's going to turn. And that's what makes this prophecy, because this is prophecy, that makes this very special. Okay. That you as an individual have to return to Yahweh. The nation as a whole can't turn back for all of us. Okay. Yah has decided that that's not going to be. If we waited for the whole nation to turn back, then you and I would be here forever. Not everybody's going to want to go. Not everybody wants to change. Not everybody's going to call out to Yah. And definitely not everybody's paying attention to what Yahweh said. Past tense. What he said. And paying attention in his means Shema, has given careful attention to it, carefully. Okay. Which will be exactly what I'm ordering you. I'm commanding you to do today. You, singular, and your children with all your heart and all your being. That all right there is called, meaning that it is a taming of the mind and that's what your heart is. Your heart is your mind in Hebrew. So it's your thoughts. And so every part of your thought life process has to change. It has to be tamed. It has to be brought into subjection and obedience to what Yahweh has said. And all your being, that is your appetites and your desires and your cravings. And that was the problem that the children of Israel were having, because they didn't want to be tamed. They want to still have the same mind they had when they were in Egypt. And he wanted to take that same thought processes and bring it over into Yahweh's community in the circle that we went over earlier this week. Okay. And once you're in the circle, if you do anything that's against everything that's in the circle, you're going to be put out of the circle. Okay. I also found here there's something that supplements chapter number 30, Deuteronomy prophecy, because that's a prophecy. And so it told us earlier, okay, in Deuteronomy 4, not Deuteronomy 30, 4, says this. Yahweh will scatter you. I want you to look at the 3 S's that you were talking about here. Yahweh will scatter you. Okay. Among the peoples and among the nations to which Yahweh will lead you. That's who's doing the scattering, Yahweh. And you will be left few in number. I'm going to cut you down. And there you will serve. That's the second one. Gods. Okay. Which are a product of human hands made of wood and stone, who can't see, hear, eat, or smell. Okay. So meaning that they don't have, they're not living. Yah doesn't have eyeballs, but he does see. He doesn't have ears, but he does hear. He doesn't eat, but he understands the taste because he gave the tongue. And he's the one who given the nose. So he does smell, because he said even his offerings are ruach nakoach, a sweet smelling savor to him. So Yah has created these things because he's a living Elohim. Okay. However, from there, if you will seek, and I think that's what Azania had said earlier today about seeking Yahweh in 65:10 of Isaiah, and those who sought out Yahweh will go into the land. Okay. So if you are in the place of the nations and you're among these nations, your responsibility is to seek Yahweh. Okay. So you've already been scattered. That's already done. You've already served other gods. And now you have to change those and convert into seeking Yahweh, your Elohim. So if you do from there, from where? From the nations, if you would seek him, you will find him. You, individual, will find him if you search for him. That was my little other one I forgot to put, is like another S. If you will search for him after him with all your heart and all your being. So this is another supportive information and text where we see that Yahweh is asking for the same thing he's always been asking. All of your mind, okay, that's your heart, and all your being. That's your nefeshka, that's your soul, that's your desire, that's your cravings. So Yah's asking us, if you're going to lust and desire anything, it should be me, because I'm your husband. If anything you need to be desiring and yearning is my words. That's what you need to be lusting after. If you want to crave after something, once you crave that. Because that's what it is. So the thing is should we ask questions? That's the question. Should you ask questions? Absolutely. Here's some questions you should ask. Who can say something and have it happen without Yahweh's commanding it? Who can say something and have it happen without Yahweh's commanding it? Nobody. Everything that's being said, you understand? And if it happens, it's because Yahweh gave a command. Don't both bad things and good things proceed out of the mouth of the Most High? Oh, I thought he's just a God of love. He doesn't do anything wrong according to the New Testament. He's not going to do anything. He's not going to bring any bad on anybody. Is that right? No, the Elohim that you serve will bring bad and good. Because it's based on his command. Why? Here's another question. Why should anyone alive, complain? Why? Even a strong man about the punishment for his sins. We can't complain about our punishment. You see? Because it is our crimes and our sins that has brought this upon us. Yah tells us in the book of Jeremiah, and I also believe in Isaiah, it says, why are you complaining about your womb? Why are you complaining? Wasn't it not your sins who have done this? So the bottom line is, let us examine, all right, and investigate and test our ways and return to Yahweh. Going back to what Azania had said. My sister said that we should turn to him wholeheartedly. We need to convince him now. And the only way that you and I can fully do this is if we have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to investigate ourselves. See? And that's something that we haven't been taught. We've been taught that everything is going to happen instantly, like instant oatmeal. As soon as you put some water in it, poof, it's a bowl of oatmeal. It's not going to happen like that. It's not going to happen. It's more like grits. It's more like you got to boil the water, put it in, stir it up, and let it cook and simmer. It's not instant here. You hear me? So we got work to do. We got preparation to do. Okay. And finally, we want to talk about the preparation of the nation through a leader. In closing, our leader is Moshe. As our sister had pointed out to us, he is definitely one of Yah's most trusted servants in all his house. Moshe asked Yahweh, why are you treating your servants so badly? Why haven't I found favor in your sight so that you could put this burden of this entire people on me? These people were a burden to him. He's complaining. But he's asking questions. That's how he complained. He's smart enough to ask questions. He says, did I conceive this people? Was I their father so you could tell me carry them in your arms like a nurse carrying a baby to the land you swore to their ancestors? Why did he say a baby? Because they were constantly crying. Israel was at their tents, and as Brother Aki Yared had said last week, it was millions of them. The babies weren't only crying. The children were crying. The women were crying. The sons were crying. The daughters were crying. The middle age was crying. The elders were crying. Everybody was crying. The leaders were crying. They were all crying like a bunch of babies. This man was fed up, and he had a legitimate complaint because it was one man, one who was bearing the burden of this entire people. One. But what's the difference? That's the question. What was the difference between his complaint and their complaint? What is the difference between complaining? between an Anan. Okay. This man, Moshe, was very humble. That word very is called meod, like tov meod, very good. Meod means an abundance of ashes, just throwing ashes. You know, you can't count ashes, just throwing them up, and there's so a multitude. He was multitude based on humility. His humility was like ashes. That's who he was. More so than anyone, and they have there anyone, but in Hebrew is Adam, any human being on the face of the earth. So Yah chose this man, Moshe, okay? He chose him. His name means silk, means touch. He has a certain touch about him. So the difference is that this man was humble. And look what we got here. We got the same word that we saw earlier, but now instead of it having an aleph on the front of it, it got the ayin. And what is the ayin? The ayin represents the eye. Remember the first one was a non and it had the aleph on the front of it? Now this one has an ayin. So a na, okay, is humble. Humble. What does it mean to be humble? What does it mean to be humble? Humility means to be gentle. It means to be gentle. It doesn't mean that you can't make a complaint. It's how you make your complaint. That's the difference. Gentle in the sense of a careful watching. And what does it mean by careful watching, right? So how was he watching? Moshe was always adamant about how things were going. He was involved. He wasn't a hands-off. Azania brought it out, said our Elohim was hands-on. His hands-on was through his servant Moshe. He was being attentive to the people because Yahweh was his master, and he knew that the way that he had to operate was being like his master. Moshe being gentle was a representative of what Yah wanted for his people. Yah chose this man because Yah was trying to tell his people that I'm going to use a man that's gentle to represent me. My servant is following my orders. If he's being gentle, it's because I'm gentle. And that's something for us to understand. If you and I are going to serve Yahweh, and we're going to be in the capacity of service to him, and when the time comes for us to truly serve him, right now we are his servant. We just haven't been put into service. He's training us and preparing us and laying the foundational work on us to get these things in place so we can be gentle. So when we deal with Yahweh's people, you and I need to have a different sense of gentleness, and we need to have a different sense of anah, you understand, humility. That's the difference, okay? So this is what you and I must need to be, because a careful watching. And what's also included in this word, okay, which we find is called anan. So the other one was anah. This is anan, okay? Just like I told you earlier, anan was the complaint, right? Now this anan is one with the aleph, the ayin, which the eye, and this is the cloud that Azania had mentioned about Yah being the cloud with us. So when that cloud was traveling with us, Yah was carefully watching over the children of Israel at all times. He would never let anything happen bad to them, except for if he had to do it himself. You understand? He kept scorpions away from them. He kept things away from that couldn't harm them. He protected them. The environment, the temperature was perfect for them while they were in this desert. Their living conditions were good. They were great because Yahweh provided for them. Okay, so they were with him, and he asked a question. Moshe told him, think deeply about it. Why didn't your clothes wear out? Because the environment that they were in, because of Yah's gentleness, his watching over them gently. So the cloud wasn't there only to put the fear in them, was to let them know that I'm watching over you. So every time the cloud would move up and the cloud would move, Yahweh was moving out to find a different place for Israel to stay, so he can bring them to the area that he wants. Why? And sometimes they stay there one day, sometimes they stay there a month, and sometimes they stay there for a couple of months. But it was his leading, and it was his gentleness and his continual, constant, careful watching over his people. Praise be to Yahweh. So there you go, Anan. And what does that mean? It means to watch. That's what that cloud was doing. It was an abode. It was a home, a place closely watched. Yah was looking at the tents. When you see these tents and you see this Yah in being in the center, and he designed it and put himself in the center, and then he put the Lawim around him. Then he has all the tribes around him, and they're all encompassing around him. It's like they're protecting him, and he's protecting them from the inside out. Okay, Yah's desire is for it to be inside of the midst of his people. Yah doesn't want to be on the outside. He wants to be on the inside. And he's teaching us that his home, which was his dwelling place, because that's where Yah lived. He lived in the tabernacle. It's a place that needs to be closely watched. So what Moshe was doing was watching Yahweh's home for him. He was his servant. He was walking around, like I got this picture of this temple here. He's walking around and making sure everything was supposed to be the way it is. What can we learn from this? If you're a gentle person in your home, you should be closely watching your home, because it's your responsibility to protect the home. And by keeping a close eye on everything and everyone that's in your home. It's not just on the inside of your home. You look on the borders of your home. You look on the outside of your home. If you wanted to make sure that no one comes and penetrate the home, you got to put some boundaries up and some protection. You got to put a fence up. You got to put an alarm system. So what Yah is doing is saying, listen, I have to protect my home. You understand? And what's in my house and what was in Yahweh's house was a whole bunch of crying babies. And there was a babysitter in there who was like, I'm tired. These ain't my kids. These are your kids. You see, I need some help. You understand? So the idea that we're grabbing and capturing from this Torah portion is that Yah is closely watching. He's not only watching with his eye, you understand, with his vision, he's also keeping a close eye on us, but he's also keeping a close ear. He's listening. And as parents, I would say that you and I need to do a better job of keeping eye on our family inside your home. You need to be careful what they're watching. You need to be listening to what they're saying. This is not a game for us. This is the reality. And this is what we do. And this is how we develop who we are as our humility. This is how you get it. And so there's a careful watching over something of importance. What Yah watched over us because we are the treasure. We are the jewel of him. That's what we are. He said, you're a special people to me. And I've been watching over you. I tell you all the time that Yah's not here. And that means that it's sanctuary, which is true. But Yah is watching over us. Yahweh has put his hand on us and said, listen, this is what I need you to do. Yah is guiding you and us right now through the Torah portion. We're following him. This is why we'll go to the book of Numbers. And now we're here. And we went over to chapter 10 and 11 and 12. And now he made us stop and said, okay, today's the Shabbat. You take your rest and let me talk to you. Then tomorrow we're going to start going somewhere else. You understand? And we're going to keep walking with Yah. You understand? But there's always opposition. There's always opposition. And that opposition can be the mixed multitude. That opposition can be the people within the community. That opposition can be even in your own family. Opposition is always going to be part of the preparation. It wasn't, they didn't go into the land just freely and walk in and, everything was set and ready. They had to go, and there was always opposition. And so we understand that Moshe had his brother and sister, Miriam and Aharon, and they were older than him, and they began criticizing Moshe on the account of him, of the Ethiopian woman that he married, for he had in fact married an Ethiopian woman, okay, which he also married a Median woman. So he had, a couple of wives, and they said, and this possibly could have been because his wife went back, right? She's like, I probably can't do this. So we picked up another wife. They said, is it true that Yahweh has spoken only with Moshe? Hasn't he spoken with us too? And guess what? We see again, what? Yahweh heard them. I told you his ears are open to everything. He hears what's being said. The Ozen, he balanced it out. He took their words and he heard what they said, and they were criticizing him. That word that they have for criticize right there is the word called davar, okay, which we get our word davarim, okay, meaning words. Davar means to speak, okay? That's what it means. It means to speak. But we also find that even in our word bamidbar is the word speak, okay, in the wilderness. So here's davar. And what does davar means? Davar means it's an order. Okay, the action is to order. And so what's the concrete? The word. So you order your word. So it's an arrangement or a placement of something by creating order. So even like I told you earlier this week, that you and I have to be careful on what we say because it's the arrangement of our words. You can arrange certain words in a certain way to make them say a certain thing. Okay. Even in teaching, you have to be careful about what words you're using. You know, anytime we use Yahweh's name, we have to make sure that we're not mentioning his name among anything else that's going to be what they would call contaminated or impure. And this is why I have a problem with people who would use Yah's name and within the same sentence, not even 5 seconds later, they'll use a swear word. See, we can't do that because Yahweh's name is Kadosh and it's set apart and it shouldn't be part of that structure. Okay. So the word, with Aharon and Miraim, because in the Hebrew, it says Miraim and Aharon began criticizing. Well, the fact is in the Torah, it doesn't say that. It says Miraim started criticizing. Okay. Aharon didn't criticize. What he was doing was kind of listening and putting a little comment on it. It was really Miraim. It wasn't both of them, because the question we asked is, well, we know what kind of judgment she received for what her criticism was. Why is she only the one who get it? Why did he get it? It was simply because he was just there. He was talking, but he wasn't doing the real criticizing. She was. Okay. So Davar means to speak. Okay. D-V-A-R, which is the Dalet, the Bet, and the Resh. And it's an arrangement of setting things in arrangement like you do in anything. Okay. So that's the cultural understanding. And so suddenly Yahweh told Moshe, Aharon, and Miraim, come out, you three, to the tent of meeting. And the three of them went out. Now, it's interesting to say that Yahweh told. Okay. Yahweh, according to the text, it says he told them, meaning he spoke to them. Okay. And he spoke to these three individuals, Moshe, Aharon, and Miraim. And he told those three to come out. Okay. And so Yahweh came down in a cloud, a column of a cloud, which we know what a cloud is a careful watching. And we understand that Yahweh's hearing, and Yahweh stood at the entrance to the tent meeting. This cloud did. And he summoned Aharon and Miraim, and they both went forward. Now, I don't know about you, but if Yahweh had called us and he told you three come out, and you just recently were in a discussion about something, you knew they were like, uh-oh, we're in trouble, right? And you see this cloud. So, and he said, listen to what I say. When there is a prophet among you, when there is a prophet among you, I, Yahweh, make myself known to him in a vision. Okay. This is something we all need to remember. I will make myself known to him in a vision. Okay. And speak with him in a dream. Okay. So when Yah's dealing with a prophet, any prophet that you read about, which is Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Amos, any of these other prophets, any of them, no matter who they are, Yah only talks to them in a vision, and he talks to them in a dream. He'll speak to them in a dream. Okay. He says, but it isn't that way with my servant, Moshe. Yah doesn't talk to Moshe this way. Not with him. He does not talk to Moshe this way. Okay. He is the only one who is faithful in my entire household. Okay. So Yah has a household like we've been talking about. He's the only faithful one in my entire household. With him, I speak. They had in the English face to face. I changed it to the Hebrew mouth to mouth. It's not face to face. So it doesn't contradict when it says no man has ever seen Elohim. Yes, they died because Yah said you can't see me, which is true. No one has ever seen Yah. They might see a vision of him. They might see him in a dream and an appearance of him in some type of way. They might see the glory of him in a vision, but no one has ever seen Yahweh because humanity can never see Elohim and never will. Okay. They never will. They might see the cloud. They might see the fire. But remember, he says, don't break through and come and see me, because if you do come and try to look upon me, you'll die. Right. So we understand it. Our creator, we will never be able to go straight to him as we've been taught that we will. Like you can go boldly before the throne of grace. There's not a problem. And you can see Elohim through the face of this man called Yeshua. That's just something that man has always wanted to do. They always wanted to see God. And now they get to see him in the New Testament. Yah says, you'll never see me. Okay. So for Israel, we understand that our prophets only see Yah through visions and in a dream. Okay. And they see his glory. All right. But when he spoke to Moshe, he spoke to him mouth to mouth, not face to face. Mouth to mouth means that I say something and he hears it. He says something and I hear it. You understand? Clearly, not in riddles. I never gave him any doctrines, any mysteries. I never gave him any mysteries. He sees the image of Elohim. What image? What image did he see? What image did he see of Yahweh? He saw the glory, the magnificence of Yah. Okay. But he never saw Yah's person. He's only saw the glory of Yahweh. Okay. So, and this is the right reason why his face turned the way that it did. So why weren't you afraid to criticize? Why weren't you afraid to arrange words about my servant? See, my servant. And the anger of Yahweh flared up against them and he left. So as we've seen in the last couple of chapters, that as Isaiah said, it'd take forever if we went through every last detail. So here I wanted to bring out the point about the prophets. They only see Yahweh in a dream and a vision. Okay. I want you to understand that Yahweh did not talk to Moshe face to face. He talked to him mouth to mouth. Okay. We also know that Yahweh doesn't talk in riddles to Moshe. So everything that you and I receive from Moshe is not a mystery. It is not in a riddle. Okay. It is plain. It's very clear. Okay. And one thing that we won't do and we should not do is make sure that we don't criticize anything that Moshe said. And this is the danger that a lot of people are doing today. They criticize like, well, I know that you've heard that it's been said, but I say unto you, that is criticism of Moshe. Yeah, the law of Moshe was this and this and that, and it represented death. That's criticism because everything that he spoke was what Yah told him to say. So there's a danger for individuals who don't understand that. Hopefully you can see right here in our word midbar, okay, the word davar. It's right here. It means to speak, and this means from speaking, okay, from speaking, or me means who speaks, okay, and the one who was speaking in the wilderness was Yahweh, and he was speaking through Moshe, okay. So, in conclusion, it says in book of Ezekiel, chapter number 20, verse 34 through 36, I will bring you out. This is Yah's promise to us. This is a prophecy, and I will gather you from the countries where you were scattered, with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and with poured out fury. Okay. So this term poured out fury wasn't used in him taking us out of Mizraim. He never used this term. He's using this now because the poured out fury is going to be a judgment with fire. So when Yah comes and gets us, it's going to be with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and poured out fury. Okay. If you look in the text in Hebrew, it doesn't say this when he brought us out of Mizraim. This is going to be a different one. And this is the reason why in the book of Jeremiah, I believe he tells us that you'll never mention what happened to Mizraim ever, because what Yah was going to do is going to be greater. Okay. And then he says, then I will bring you into the desert of the peoples. That's our destination. You and I are going to go on to the wilderness, the midbar of the peoples, and I'm going to judge you face to face. Okay. Just as I judged your ancestors in the desert, in the land of Mizraim. Here it is face to face. Okay. And what that means is that you and I are going to see the fire of Yahweh like our ancestors did. That's what it means. Because they saw him face to face, because they saw the fire, they saw the cloud, and on the mountain. So Yah's going to do exactly the same thing. And he says, I judge, just as I judged your ancestors in the land, in the desert of the land of Egypt, so I will judge you, says the master of masters. That's the proper interpretation of that title for his name. He's the master of masters. And what we need to understand about this is that the desert, the Bamidbar, in the place of the desert is a place of preparation. And this is where people are going to get their judgment. You're going to get your judgment. Israel will receive their judgment. And if you continue to read on, I didn't want to go into it, but the rebels are not going to be able to go in. He's going to judge them. No rebel is going to enter the land of Israel. Anybody who's ever rebelled against what Yahweh said, from even wearing a beard, is not going in. Okay. They're not, because you rebelled against what Yahweh's word is. if you don't decide that you don't want to wear your seats, you're not going in the land of Israel. Because as Azania read, she just read this, I think in Isaiah chapter number 26, verse 10, which is even if you show pity to the wicked, they still won't learn what righteousness is because they won't fully understand and give Yah the glory that's deserving of his majesty. Okay. So if you and I are not willing to do what he says now, this wilderness piece that you and I are going to is a place where we're going to be judged to find out whether or not you're going in the land. Just like your ancestors got judged and they didn't go into the land, right? Why didn't they go in the land? Somebody tell me. Why didn't they go in the land?
Killed.
Huh?
They were killed.
Because they were complaining.
And he asked them to go in and take possession of the land, and guess what they said? No, we can't do it. Can't do it. What do you mean you can't do it? We can't do it. We can't overcome them. So just like they're not able to overcome the people of the land because they thought it was too hard and too difficult and the walls were too big and the people were too tall, so is the same mindset that goes beyond, well, I can't do this because it's too difficult to do. I can't eat that diet. I can't keep the Shabbat. I can't do this. I can't do this. You got a whole bunch of what you can't do. And Yah says, okay, you didn't have the courage to obey the command because you didn't think I empowered you to do it. So therefore you're not going. So anybody who doesn't follow Yahweh's ways, folks, is not going to the land. This is your last chance as a people. This is your last opportunity. After this, there is none. And you could go find someone else who'll teach you that you do have an opportunity to go in because you got grace. And grace says that, you know, you could do evil and wickedness and I'll just forgive you. That's the Christian mindset, that God is loving and he'll forgive you and it's not a big deal because you can't keep the commandments because you're in exile. That is a total lie. You understand? So the teaching that you're receiving today is telling you that Yah says that anyone who does not do what I tell them to do will not go into the land, period. You're not going. That's your teaching for today. I hope you're able to gather something from that. I'm going to answer your question in a second, Azania. So I say Shabbat Shalom to you, meaning that cease in peace, because cease is Shabbat. That means to cease from your work, cease and desist from the things that you do, right, with your hands, okay? And also too, Shalom is in peace. So I created this idea, which is according to the language, cease in peace. Yes, Azania. Go ahead, sister.
Yes, Shabbat Shalom. I just wanted to say that they have a lot of Torah people. In fact, I followed one briefly until I realized it didn't make any sense. That are teaching that our nation is not going to be judged in this day and time, that we have no more judgments, and everything is about us being gathered and, you know, just hunky-dory. And it's like, again, it's a Christianized version of Torah.
Yeah.
So many are out there teaching, and Isaiah 10 and 22 let you know that that's not true. Not only is there going to be a remnant, he basically says that, you know, that so many of us are going to be destroyed, and it's going to be by his righteousness that it's going to happen.
Yes.
Yes. And so it's just very, very sad because some of our people, because of just like so many people just out there just wantonly teaching all types of stuff, and us not having that something, I don't know, that X factor to just really get into these scriptures and prayer and just really start seeking him for ourselves, we get misled. And there's one thing I definitely feel like through prayer and meditation, I definitely feel a lot of the Most High's mercy leaving. And I feel like we're quickly coming to that point where that window to return to him is really going to be shut. It's closing. Yeah.
So your good points. Those are wonderful because that's the same thing that happened to me. I was in a congregation at one point and they were talking about, you know, grace. And if you didn't know, it's okay. And if you do this on Shabbat, you know, we can't do this because we're here based on his grace. And, Yah has clearly said, it's not how I feel, you guys. I'm not saying how I feel. I'm telling you what he has said. It's turning back to him wholeheartedly. And we have done some things to him, and he says that his anger is burning and he's upset. Yah is upset with Israel. Israel is not accomplishing the goal and the desire that Yah had for us. So what is he doing? He allowed us to go through what we're going through. He wants to see if you and I are willing to turn. And like Koti had said, it's now time for us to convince him. That's what it is. The relationships work that way. One person can't be involved. One person can't be putting forth all the effort, and the other person doesn't want to come back, especially that's the person who did all the offending. You know, Yah, we've committed adultery on Yah, and we've been a whore. And he said, you know what? What is he going to do? Take the whore back and she's still hoeing? No, it's not going to happen like that. He's saying that you guys have to turn away from your wickedness. You have to get rid of your idols. You have to get rid of that mindset. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you in an environment that I'm going to see how bad you want it, because I'm going to put you in an environment that's not conducive to the Torah. That's what it is. I'm going to put you in an environment that everything around you is going to be filthy. And I want to see if you're willing to separate from it. I'm going to put you in an environment with adultery is the common deal. And I'm going to see what you're going to do with that. I'm going to put you in an environment that breaking the Shabbat is that's where everybody has their fun on the Shabbat. I'm going to see if you're willing to separate yourself. So those of you who are separating yourselves for the purpose of Yahweh, you are doing what Yahweh asked you to do. You are. And that's what it is. And you're doing the right thing. And to speak to the point that you mentioned about why they won't read, listen, we like to think they're deceived. No, they're not. No, they're not deceived. This is what they wanted. If you go to Isaiah chapter number 65, he said, I called, but you didn't answer. So Yah is calling them. He says, you kept doing what you wanted to do, and you did what was evil from my viewpoint, from what I see. You don't care about it, how I see it. You're going to design your own priesthood. You're going to design your own way of worship. You go tell people that I am there. You're going to tell them that you're blessed. You're going to tell them all these different things about you. So you can minimize what I said. See, the moment you say that how can you be cursed and blessed at the same time? How can I be with you, but yet you're still in captivity? How could you be serving me and yet you're not in any service to me? How could you do anything and you have no contribution? You see? And we believe that just saying thank you here is enough. And the truth is that's not all that God wants. He didn't design this world for us just to say thank you only. There has to be some action that's put behind it. Somebody could tell you all day long they love you, but you want to be able to see it. You really love me. Let's do this. Yah has done what he's done. Has he not taken action on our behalf? Has he not killed our enemies? Has he not opened up the Red Sea? Has he not given us an actual physical land? So these are not empty promises. So if we have to decide if we're going to follow him spiritually, physically, and emotionally, every kind of way that we're supposed to. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed your lesson today. I sure did. It was a wonderful deal. I stayed up to like 1 o'clock in the morning last night. I said, yeah, I said, put some slides together. I said, okay, I'll put some slides because we need to see these things. We need to understand, okay, that there's a certain way that we do things. If you have complaints, Yah said, I'll hear your complaint if it's legitimate and it's in the manner that you do it. And if it's with humility, because even though this man was crying out to Yah, he was still humble. So we see that. We see that Yah brought out judgment and justice through anger. Yah gets angry, and he has every right to do so, okay? So that's our class today. I say Shabbat Shalom. Any other questions, contributions? I have my class today, so I'll see you guys a little bit later. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Shalom.
Wonderful lesson.
Yes,
Thank you.
praise Yah.
Yes.
Praise Yah. Good to see all of you. Hallelujah.
Shalom.
Great job today, Koti, Azania. Awesome.
Thank you. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.